this one stop? All right, stop. Oh, it didn't stop. Let me lower it. We are in the future.
Yes, friends, he was a great man, gone too soon.
Well, we are in the. Are you talking about the AEW ratings? I'm not
No,
sure.
I thought that was we were stepped into a funeral there when we got out of the time machine.
Well, it may be, actually. We're going to talk about the AEW Dynamite ratings for April 3rd, 2024 in a moment. But, Jim, we have to reference something from a little earlier.
Well, yeah, I realized when we were taking our intergalactic journey through the space-time continuum and hit the left turn at Albuquerque on the warp that I'd alluded to a story that I was going to tell that you hadn't heard or couldn't remember. And then we never fucking did it. And I thought we ought to clean that up before we go any further. So if the people got to the end of this program and didn't hear it and had actually given a shit, they wouldn't be saying, what the fuck? Right? So what I was trying to say earlier was with Edge cutting that promo in defense of Tony and the company and its raison d'etre for living. And I understand Dax cut a promo off the air after the show saying, well, if it wasn't for AEW, I wouldn't be spending time with my family. I mean, okay. I'm not sure that's a defense for the place that everybody wants to go and work with their friends and have fun. But the point, I said they're divining themselves. And divining yourself is a phrase that I coined in TNA back in 2006, 2007, whatever it was. It's to unnecessarily, through your own mouth, call attention to bad shit about you that a lot of people may not have heard except you brought it up. Or stooging yourself is what it could be shorter for those of you smart to the wrestling lingo. And do you remember Johnny Devine? He was one of the Canadian guys, was with Scott D'Amore's Canadian group.
I remember the name more than I remember the actual wrestler, but I remember the name.
Nice guy and a good worker and etc. But it was the night the TNA pay-per-view that Scott Hall no-showed and Kevin Nash and Samoa Joe got in a fight. And when I say fight, a very sharp, loud, profane, pointed verbal confrontation. And I think Nash pie-faced Joe, and it was in front of a lot of the guys in that fucking, the trailers that served as locker rooms. Because Hall had no-showed the tag match main event of the pay-per-view. Surprise, surprise. And Joe was supposed to give a promo at the start explaining why whatever the reason was, it was going to be changed to whoever the fuck was in it, right? And in the process of doing that, Joe pissed off because this fucking guy no-showed. Again, these young guys were doing the work and carrying this thing, and it was the impression that the WWE guys just came in, made the money, jacked off, vacation, whatever. There's something to that, but nevertheless, Joe gets fucking pointed on a promo about Hall at the start and pisses Nash off without even, I think, really knowing that he had done that. He was just venting at the guy that no-showed the pay-per-view and fucked his match up. And then afterwards, Nash goes in, starts cutting a promo on Joe, and it gets heated and ugly or whatever. So the next day at TV, they call a meeting because Samoa Joe prides himself on being not only a professional, but an adult and conducting himself in a certain manner. And he felt he wanted to apologize not only to Nash for things he had said, but also in front of the company and the group, the boys, and, for his behavior in that setting. And from Dixie was there on down, Jeff and Dutch, and then, us, the producers, the referees, all the wrestlers. Joe stands up, gives a very impassioned apology to everybody for conducting himself in that manner. He's a professional, and he doesn't want to set a bad example for that. Very well received. They gave him a round of applause. I think Dixie gave him a hug. And the meeting was over, right? And suddenly, swept up in the fucking emotion of this cathartic, soul-bearing journey that Joe had taken us on, or maybe just seeing, well, he got a round of applause, maybe I can, I don't know what was going through his head. Johnny Devine stands up and raises his hand. I'd just like to apologize for my behavior also. Oh my God. Fast forward, rewind to the previous night. Right after this fucking pay-per-view, Hall no shows, main events, chaos afterwards. Me and Dutch are always the last ones out of there. I've taken a shower because it's always fucking hot in Orlando, whatever the fuck. It's like 1:00 in the morning now, and I've got to eat. I'm going to Wendy's. And as I go down in the elevator at the DoubleTree and I come out of the elevator, there in the lobby is Dutch Mantell talking to 2 or 3 uniformed police officers. First time I've ever seen uniformed police officers in the lobby of the DoubleTree in Orlando, so I know it's not just a chance meeting. I duck behind one of the columns because I want to see what's going on, but I don't want them to see me. I don't want to be called over for conversation here, but if Dutch breaks and runs for it, I got the car keys in my fucking pocket, and I'll scream, "Dutch, this way!" But they're just, it's obvious it's not a confrontational conversation. They're talking, so I'm thinking, there's some trouble with one of the boys, and Dutch is finding out what's going on because he's the representative here. I'm sure Shitstain was asleep in his bed somewhere, potentially about to wet it, dreaming of, writing his TV the next day. So I go on to Wendy's because I'm hungry. And when I come back, there's no cops there. Okay. So the next morning I'm meeting Dutch in the lobby and I get the story. Johnny Devine had gotten out early or whatever the previous night, and they put the main event guys and the main event office people in the DoubleTree. But they put the underneath guys over at around the corner at the Holiday Inn Express. Johnny Devine has gone into the Holiday Inn Express, and the lobby is like the size of my bathroom, right? It's a little fucking, and somehow he's made enough of a stink about something to the front desk girl that he's made her cry, but also the police have been called because he was pitching a fit and don't you know who I am? And then the police have been directed to his supervisor over at the DoubleTree where Dutch could try to talk him down. I think maybe he had come over that direction and they had followed him over there. So anyway, the point is, it wasn't a big goddamn deal. No one was injured. He offended the girl at the desk and was told in no uncertain terms to apologize and wasn't going to get TNA kicked out of the Holiday Inn Express. Dixie didn't know any of this happened, right? He stood up, he said, "I just also like to apologize for my behavior." And you saw Dixie turn to Jeff like, "What behavior?" And I shouldn't have conducted myself that way also, and I wouldn't mean to bring any shame or embarrassment on the company. And again, you see her turn, "What shame? What embarrassment?" And he apologized to everybody, and he's standing there waiting for the fucking round of applause that doesn't come because everybody's buried their face in their hands like, "You fucking idiot, you've just stooged yourself." Half the boys didn't really know about it, and it didn't go any farther. I think Dutch told Jeff, and Jeff wasn't going to tell Dixie. And then the meeting broke up, and you remember you said you remember Johnny Devine's name? I don't think he's wrestled in the United States since then.
Oh, no, really?
I mean, no, he wasn't there long after that. And I hadn't seen or heard of his name in a long. Johnny Devine, are you out there? I liked him. He's a good kid, but goddamn, that was hilarious. Especially, it was like trying to follow the Gettysburg Address with a goddamn C-SPAN fucking speech. And he stooged his own self for something that had already been covered and dealt with.
And it all ties back to AEW, because if you're an AEW fan or just a wrestling fan and you have not watched the CM Punk interview or read wrestling newsletters or anything or websites, yes, you have no idea what's going on. And all of a sudden these wrestlers are like, "I'll get back to the wrestling in a moment. I want to tell you how happy I am to be here and why you should all be happy that I'm here."
They're jumping up and down, calling attention to something that maybe just could have blown over if they just give it a week or two and go on about their business. But they had to jump in. And
when your whole thing is, Don't say anything bad about Tony. You got to love it here because they pay me and give me the right to feed my family. You know what? You could say it about any boss at any job anywhere in the world. Don't say anything bad about Mr. Smithers. He may torture people, but because of him, I can put food on the table for my family.
Yes, they eat only the finest gruel. Farm to table gruel.